We start with the video.
Yeah.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome you on the DSS IT Security Conference. I'm sorry for not being able to take this trip to Riga today due to some health problems. I hope you will enjoy the conference, and I really envy you for not being there. I wanted, the organizers asked me to make a short video to you, and I would like to use this opportunity to briefly introduce my presentation and my colleague who will be making the presentation on my behalf. In my presentation today, I wanted to tell you about the IT trends in the IT security which we see, and how we consider the enterprises must fight them. Why I choose this topic? Well, our company InfoWatch, actually it's a group of companies, has been working in enterprise security for more than 10 years, and we have a possibility to see what threats our customers meet. And therefore, of course, we would like to create the protection for them. One of the main topics of InfoWatch is data leakages, and my colleague Alexey Kalgin will introduce you a brief report of InfoWatch global data leakage, which says where data leaks are coming from, where they get into, which channel they use, etc., etc. I hope you find this interesting. And well, now I want to introduce Alexey Kalgin, who is the head of product manager in company EgoSecure GmbH. It's one of the InfoWatch Group companies. Alexey has been working in IT security for 20 years. He started at Kaspersky Lab, my previous company, 20 years ago, and since then was always involved in the development of IT security products. I hope he will make it all right, and I wish you the best day and very interesting conference. Good luck.
Yes, a nice video message. Okay, Alexey, the stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you. So, as you heard from the video, I'm making this presentation on behalf of Natalya Kaspersky. So actually, she prepared this presentation. I made just minor adjustments, and I will present. And the theme of this conference is about Digital Fortress, and I tried to reflect it in my presentation the way we see it and the way the changes are happening in nowadays. But just before, to explain the relationships between the companies, to tell you a little bit more about InfoWatch and EgoSecure. InfoWatch was founded as a spin-off of Kaspersky Lab in 2003. So 12 years ago, the first product was released. At that moment, it was founded by Kaspersky Lab. It was a part of the company. But later, it became independent. Starting from 2007, Natalya Kaspersky, she's heading InfoWatch. She's Chief Executive Officer of InfoWatch. And starting from 2010, InfoWatch became completely independent company, completely independent business. And you see here in the portfolio, EgoSecure is just one company, but there are other companies. But what unites them all, they are all working in IT security business. They are all dealing with security, with threats. But different companies are dealing with different things. InfoWatch is mainly concentrating on protection from data loss, from data leakages. Other companies, they are specializing on targeted attacks, other things, data protection. So for example, company I'm working for, EgoSecure, is mainly working with data protection. And I'm presenting this in another venue today. But the main idea, all these products, they are for enterprise, for companies to secure businesses. Nor InfoWatch and any other company in this group of companies, they do not develop any consumer level products. they are all specially designed for enterprises. They are all specially designed for IT managers, security officers, management of the company, to reflect the workflows happening, etc. And these are software solutions, mainly. Sometimes there are pieces of hardware, but in majority, it's software solution. But as previous presenters mentioned, security is not just a simple piece of software or big piece of software. It always comes with services, consulting services, etc. Returning to the theme of this conference about digital fortress, in the past, when people were thinking about their lives, they first thought about security. So when they need security, they start with building a fortress. So they put a fortress and they put everything inside this fortress. And it was very well controlled. They were towers, gates, bridges, raising bridges, so it wasn't easy to enter from the outside. So they were isolated castles, fortresses, and all valuables and all people, they were living inside. And they were protecting their valuables, they were protecting their lives with these fortresses. Actually, this castle you see here is the closest one to EgoSecure office in Germany. It's just 20 minutes driving from the HQ of EgoSecure. But, okay, this was an example how things were constructed in the past. But nowadays, things changed a lot. If we think about the company as a fortress, nowadays there are so many open doors, so many data flows. I will talk about this. But before that, I want to mention, 22 years ago, I was working for one large airline company. And at that time, airline company reminded me the castle, because there was control, all workstations, they had no possibility to copy any data from there. There was no internet. There was even no possibility to copy any data to floppy disk. All floppy drives were removed. And even networks, they were isolated from each other. For example, financial department, they had a separate network. And other people, they were not able. Only financial controllers, they were dealing with financial data. And it was disconnected from the rest for security. So there were walls, there were bridges, things like that. But now it's not the case. So let's think about how to build the digital fortress of the 21st century. When we talk about security, and also not only security, but also the measures which people apply on their systems, what people are usually doing for security. The first things which comes to my mind is antivirus. Antivirus adaptation rate is like 99%. Almost all computers have antiviruses, firewalls, sometimes patch management. Now patch management is introduced on the level of operating systems. But these are traditional security elements. They are important, but not enough. Because they are only protecting from external threats. They are not protecting from internal threats. But internal threats are even more dangerous because employees working for the company, they have access to company data, to all sensitive data of the company. They have access to the data of the customers, to personal data of different records, etc. They simply needed to do their work. It's explainable why they have access. We cannot limit this access. But how employees are using this information, this is a big question. Sometimes they can harm by intent or just by mistake. So InfoWatch and the group of companies, it protects from both internal threats and external threats. And I will talk about this combination today. And you see here there are different products securing data on different levels. So if we consider antivirus as a protection from external threats, the percentage of threats coming from the inside, it's even higher. We rate it by the number of incidents. Virus outbreak is one possibility, but another thing is, which is also a security incident, if the user is simply losing his laptop with sensitive data on it, And there are no preemptive measures to protect against this. This information was not encrypted, it was published, it fell into the wrong hands, etc. etc. So according to our research, we see that the problems from the inside, they are more serious and happen more often compared to the external things. We cannot exclude them because the external things count to 25%, even more. But still, this is how it is separated. But in reality, many companies, they are closing the red, sometimes partly, but the green one is not always properly protected. So regarding the digital world, in the old times, in these castles and fortresses, all values were locked, and the values, they were physical. It wasn't easy to steal things. Nowadays, all assets are digital. They are in digital form. And the main difference between physical asset and digital asset is that physical asset, it's not easy to replicate, it's not easy to copy. But files, data can now be copied and very fast because everything is digital, stored in digital form. And also, when the digital file is stolen, actually the original file remains in its original location. So the owner of the company, sometimes they will never know that his data appeared somewhere else outside of their companies. So that's one of the problems. Another problem is global internet connectivity. As I mentioned, 22 years ago when I was working for the airline, things were nearly the same. The aircrafts were the same, or almost the same. But there was no internet, there was no mobile phones. And actually in our airline, there were just 2 laptops. One belonged to the chief executive officer. The second one was used also by the IT team, but still, there were just 2 laptops. And there was a special guard who was carrying this laptop because it was pretty heavy. And he was responsible for this laptop. It was his main responsibility to carry the laptop. So to some extent, information was secure. But now, mobility. Laptops are everywhere. And not only laptops, smartphones are in each pocket. So, and every user connects to the internet. Even if the owner of the company or the management of the company limit abilities of people to go to the internet through their corporate LAN. Many of them, they have phones in their pockets and they can create a Wi-Fi hotspot. Almost any smartphone can do things like that. Also, another, well, I say problem, is that many companies, almost all countries, they depend on technologies developed in the United States. Because Apple, Google, and Microsoft, they are there. And there are no alternatives at the moment. So that's another threat and another actually background of threats. Now, as there are new possibilities like cloud services, global internet connectivity, very fast data transfers, etc., new devices, this gives new abilities to people, but also at the same time, this gives additional possibilities for attackers. So it's always a double-edged sword. Better connectivity, but more opportunities for hackers to do things remotely. Also, IT security usually responds to new threats, but this happens with a kind of delay. First, we know about the problem when we start fixing. First, vulnerability appears. After that, the fix happens, and there is always a delay in time. And also, lack of qualified staff is also a problem, because I will show you the example where the problem originates exactly from this fact. So today I will talk about data loss, about evolution of targeted attacks, about software vulnerabilities, a little bit about social networks, and functionality, data collecting functionality of modern IT systems. The number of leaks is growing, and each year it's high compared to the previous year. So there is a trend here. Also, the quantity of records is also growing, and it's growing very fast. It's simply explained by better transfer rates, better capacity of storages, etc. So this is how the number of leaks growing. On this slide, you can see which data is actually usually stolen. Hackers, they are trying to find data where they can generate some profit. And personal data and payment information is the primary thing which is interested for them. But also, commercial secrets or even government secrets are in this scope of data loss, data leakage. Also, how these leakages happen. Sometimes it's intended activity, sometimes it's deliberate, but quite often it's occasional. The user simply wants to work from home. He copies some sensitive data to his USB stick, and he can easily lose this USB stick on his way back home. They are so small. And information will fall into the wrong hands. So this happens by mistake. Or the user tries to send some internal document for review to his colleague before sending it out to the partner. But in Outlook, sometimes when you type the name, it replaces with the address from your contact list. And quite often, by mistake, people are sending confidential, sensitive data outside of the company when they shouldn't do this. So, or simply people saving files to OneDrive or Google Drive, some sensitive files, and they are leaving the company this way. So there are so many ways how data can leave the castle, the fortress nowadays, and we need to control them all. Regarding the ways how data is leaving, it's always changing. And you see the green, the biggest one, it's network, means internet, browser, cloud, etc. So cloud storages, this is now the most popular way how files are leaving the companies, how data is leaving the companies. Microsoft Office, by default, the newest versions, proposes users to save files not on the local storage, not on the file server, but it proposes to save files in the cloud. So just employees working for the companies, they are simply transferring some assets without any malicious intention. They simply transfer it to the cloud. If these assets are protected when they are inside the company, they are not as well protected when it's outside, because OneDrive or Google Drive, they are simply protected with username and password. And they are accessible from any computer in the world. So it's now the case just to steal credentials of people. So this simplifies the life of attackers. You see here the yellow one, paper documents. They are constantly shrinking, just because everything is becoming digital. Why users should print some secret document and with the possibility to be caught in the office for printing some sensitive data? It's easier to transfer file to USB stick or send it to the cloud and print it from home. Anyone has a printer at home now. So this is changing. Also, loss or theft of the equipment, smartphones, tablets. I will make another presentation of EgoSecure today, and I will tell you how many devices are lost. But it actually represents about 20% of all security cases. And in majority of cases, information was not encrypted, it was plain text, and it was accessible. I met many people, well-educated company owners, which were absolutely sure that if they have a password on their laptop, data is not accessible, unless someone will guess the password, which is long. They were not aware that it's possible to boot from the USB stick and get access. They were not aware that it's possible just simply to copy the hard drive, just to take it, to connect it to another system. So education is also a problem about security. Also, portable devices, USB sticks, represents the second amount of problems, because they are very cheap. Their capacity is really huge. I recall the time 22 years ago when I was working for airline. The server, the big server at that time, The capacity of all storages combined, which was huge at that moment, was 1 gigabyte. Now, each phone in your pocket has more storage than that. And so any user can copy any data with him. And we need to understand this. I will talk about targeted attacks. Unlike virus outbreaks of the past, like 10 years ago or something, targeted attack, they are not massive. They are specially targeting this or that company or something like that. And there are usually some serious reasons for that. They are usually financially motivated. And I will take an example of dark hotel targeted attack. Well, duration written here starting from 2014, but actually this is the time when it was discovered, but it started long time before. How this targeted attack happened? Business people, owners of the companies, they travel a lot. And when they are on a business trip, still they need to deal with their businesses. They need connectivity. They need to connect with their colleagues, respond to urgent emails, etc. So they contacted internet using public services like Wi-Fi. That's the regular habit of people. Oh, there is a Wi-Fi here. Let's connect. Who knows the origin of this hotspot? Also, when I was talking about education and the level of professionals, this problem, why it's called dark hotel problem, dark hotel targeted attack, it comes from the problem that people were connecting to the hotel networks. And hotel networks, there are no dedicated IT people there. Sometimes they come, they fix something, but they are not always there. They don't always patch the systems. So the attack started with compromised hotel networks. And through these hotel networks, people, they were receiving pieces of malware, zero-day attacks, etc. But it was done selectively. They were not infecting all people coming to the hotel. They were infecting just dedicated people. And once they managed to get access to one of the computers, they used social engineering to penetrate to the corporate networks, etc. But it was hidden, it was very silent. And samples of these attacks, they were not available to antivirus companies, simply because the quantity of them was very small. Only several computers were infected. And there was no thing like bang, etc., or visual effects like viruses of the 90s. They were silently sitting there. And after that, through social networks, they infected the rest. Another example of targeted attack is attack on the German steel plant, where hackers, through the spear attack, they first gained access to the corporate network, and afterwards they issued commands which physically broke the equipment, and there was a massive damage on the plant. But this was an attack. My colleagues before, they spoke about Internet of Things, about cars, also, but what worries me more, like cardio stimulators and other medical equipment can also be a target. So that's another problem. Another thing which also was mentioned today is the growing number of vulnerabilities. And especially serious is not just the number of growing vulnerabilities, but also the fact that people are not patching them in time. Like there was an example with medical certification, etc. But looking at the vulnerabilities, many of them, they are mistakes of the programmers. Some of them, these are the backdoors they left there. So that's another area. And especially if the code is developed for one particular company, unhappy programmers, they can activate backdoors which they left. And afterwards, this can be used for data theft or remote control of the system, or any fraudulent transactions, etc. Well, social networks. Now almost everyone is registered in social networks, and bad information spreads across these networks really fast. And this can damage the enterprises, this can damage real people. There is also things like stolen accounts. There are so many keyloggers and other things. People are using simple passwords, etc. Accounts are stolen. On behalf of these people, they send wrong messages to the wrong people. They duplicate this, and the problem grows and grows and grows. And this poses the danger not only to the people, but also to the companies. And also, I want to mention that many products nowadays, they are collecting data. They are doing this with good intent, but still, operating systems, they send the user data to the vendor. Internet browsers, they are doing the same. Search engines, social networks, everything. And for example, smartphones. Smartphones, for example, my smartphone, which one is based on Windows, another one is based on Android, it's always listening. It's always listening and recording what I'm saying. Because when I'm saying, OK, Google, it opens the message. This means that he's listening all the time. And who knows how properly this data is secured. A while ago, it turned out that one of the biggest Russian companies, Yandex, they had a vulnerability for keeping user data on the device's recorded voice data. So what we have to do here? First of all, IT legislation in each country, it's very important because after that, all governments and all companies working with governments, they need to take into consideration the rules which are there. And for example, like Federal Data Protection Act in Europe, where companies must secure sensitive data of their customers. Also, choice of methodologies is important here, implementation of technical measures, and it's not just a piece of software, it's a process where everything must be connected. So for this purpose, there are many products. Majority of them are developed by InfoWatch Group, and such things like targeted attack detection, source code analysis. If this is written by you, or you can find the mistakes inside the source code, etc. Solutions for detection of intrusion prevention, solutions for monitoring social networks, and the main one which we are doing is data leakage prevention, data protection. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Good one. Now, we have really a couple of minutes. So anybody has any question about, it's actually quite well connected to today's topic, because I believe most of us here who are on the payroll of the companies are responsible exactly for that, for keeping the company safe. So you mentioned those products are mostly for the corporate business, and well, in my opinion, you can build it as I don't know, as strong as you want, and so there's always this human factor, and then people they lose their phones and they share data, and they don't even quite understand what this computer asks of them, and they just press yes or no, and next, there's no time, and so. Are you aware of any really reasonable safe by design solutions that could come in the years to come to protect humans from themselves in terms of some stupidity? Because one thing is, okay, we can issue the company information to all the employees, how the data should be treated. We can allow access only from the works IP addresses, But anyway, eventually something will happen, and it's going to be breached.
Yes, there are some changes here. So, for example, when the first iPhone was released, there was no application to lock iPhone remotely. Now any user can do this. So things are improving. Also, when I first used the internet bank, there was a complicated procedure of receiving login and password. But after that, with this login and password, I was able to log in and do whatever I want in my internet bank. Now, majority of banks, they use two-factor authentication.
Yeah.
So it's not just something what I know, my password and my login credentials, but it's also something that I have, like e-token or my smartphone. If I confirm any transaction with SMS, at least without my phone, it's not possible to do things like that. So there are some changes here, and many things they are also secure by design. But anyway, no matter how secure the thing is, there are always things which I slightly mentioned, like vulnerabilities. So there are constant improvement, but still vulnerability, and still people will always be the weakest element of this chain. If the user can do something, sooner or later he will do this. If he can make a good thing or a mistake, sometimes he will do good things, sometimes they will make mistakes. So third-party software, third-party services here, just even if things are implemented properly, even if everything is installed, probably it's misconfigured. So additional services are still required. No matter complicated systems means additional services required for them to function properly.
Yeah, and you have to do that once for all the employees, etc. So they all have to have one software version of something. So if there is a problem in that software version in particular, then everybody has a problem in the company. But it's way much better than if the company doesn't have these rules, and every single one of them has different operating systems, different versions, different etc. So thank you very much. A small souvenir from us, and yes, say hello to Natalya, and so may she get well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.